Violence. This will be my 25th Game Overthinker episode now, and for almost 24 episodes, people have been asking me to get into one subject above all others. Violence.
Of course, nobody wants to hear anybody talk about violence in the broad sense. In the broad sense, we've already made up our minds about violence. We like it. We like guns, we like swords, we like fatalities, we like zombies, we like violence. When it's simulated, of course.
No, what you want to hear me talk about is video game violence in relation to the media and to the government. When people talk about video game violence these days, what they're really referring to is the raging debate about the possible long-term effects of violently themed video games on society as a whole. Or phrased more succinctly,
did playing Doom make these kids do this?
The answer is no. Any reasonable human being thinking clearly and acting honestly can see that. You want a statistic? 0. That's the exact number of studies, experiments, and pieces of evidence in existence that even come close to even starting to prove a link between violent games and real-world violence. There is more concrete, worthwhile evidence for the existences of Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, Iraqi WMD, and God combined than there is for this moronic claim. And you know what? It doesn't matter. Not to the people propping it up, not one bit. You know why? Because they believe it. Folks, if you ever only remember one thing I tell you, let it be this. On every side of every facet of every issue known, unknown, or ever known to the history of mankind, there have been two types of people. Thinkers and believers. The folks who genuinely posit that violent video games, or movies, or music, or TV, or books, or paintings, or whatever else directly cause real-world violence are believers. They have to be. So you can believe anything you want, but for something to be a thought, it has to make sense. It has to be based in some concrete conception of fact or reason. And this doesn't pass that test. This isn't worthy of being called a thought. It's merely a belief, and that means you aren't going to change the minds of the people holding it. They're either dumb enough to believe it, crazy enough that it actually makes sense to them, or they're being disingenuous for a broader agenda. Got it? Stupid, insane, or lying. So, yeah, hate to bring you the bad news, but there it is. Nothing you can say, nothing I can say, nothing anyone can say will make the pro-gaming censorship douchebags come to their senses. They're believers. And here's some more bad news. Us guys, gamers, even when we do have an opportunity to make the defense of the medium, usually it's a losing prospect because we end up defending something that never needed defense to begin with. For example, those of you who got worked up into a surplus of righteous indignation because the Mothers Against Drunk Driving wanted GTA 4 reclassified as adults only, yeah, you should do something slightly more worthy of your time. I suggest finding the nearest wall and smashing your face into it. Guys, really, most of us are competently operating a computer keyboard, so we can't be this dumb.
do you really think that fucking GTA needs or wants to be defended against controversy? It's Grand Theft fucking Auto. It's named after a felony. Rockstar wants it to be protested. They want lobbyists and child psychologists and all the usual suspects to be on the news talking it up. It's half their marketing plan. Do you think the Rockstar guys are these starving artists ensconced in their studies only to make the most thematically rich game they can, and then they're shocked when people find their sincere contribution to the arts disturbing? No! They meant to do that. Do you think the only way they could think of to regenerate health was hookers? No! The fact of the matter is, 99% of the games that draw controversy do so because they were designed to do just that. They know exactly what they're doing. They want to make Bill O'Reilly hate the game so that you'll love it more, because it makes you feel rebellious and edgy to defy the enemy.
And when we do that, every time we fall into that pattern, they win. Because we've wasted time and made ourselves look as stupid as they are. Why are we arguing on their terms? Why are we letting them set the mode of debate and the field of battle? Why are we even pretending that games will make you violent is a valid question when we know it isn't?
Why are we defending games to them when they're the ones making the accusations? I say it's time they started answering to us. I say it's time they started to answer our challenges. I say it's time we stop defending stuff that doesn't need or want defense and accentuate the positive.
And then see if the fucking censors have an answer for that. See, they're underestimating us, guys. They think we're just a bunch of shut-ins, or that we're all like those homophobic, racism-spewing anonymous toolboxes you hear on Xbox Live. Disarm them. Prove them wrong. Instead of getting into a bullshit argument over the smoke and mirrors of the violence question, take it to the next level. Yeah, GTA is crazy violent. Yeah, little kids shouldn't be playing it. Duh. But you know what else? There's more to it than that. The game's narrative places the player in control of an immigrant as he explores an urban hellscape that challenges his idealized fantasies of the American dream. BioShock engages one in an existential debate on the limits of objectivist political philosophy if carried to a utopian extreme. Assassin's Creed explores issues of legacy and historical perception, along with taking a bitingly cynical look at the cultural mythology of the Crusades. No More Heroes uses self-conscious satire to give gamers an introspective meditation on the darker and even dehumanizing effects of various staples of gaming genres. You think they're ready for that? You think they've got an answer for any of that? You think they're even prepared to engage us on this level? No. This is called fighting smart, people. Honestly, I think this is why I created the game Overthinker. Identity, brand, whatever. To get people started talking, discussing, thinking in deeper terms about gaming. I mean, if we don't take this hobby, this medium, this art form seriously now and then, how can we expect the rest of the culture to take us seriously? You know how else you fight smart? Knowing who your allies are. Stop bitching and moaning about casual gamers and family-friendly party games and pretty much anything on the Wii that isn't a new Zelda. We need this thing to get bigger, people. Consider, a parent who regards a video game console as this magical, friendly device that lives in the living room, facilitates family game night, helps them stay healthy, and teaches the kids math, is a parent who will be much less likely to believe the other side when they start blaming games for all the world's ills. The censorship firestorm we're living through isn't new, folks. It's happened before. A little over a century ago, a hack psychiatrist named Frederick Wertham, a spiritual ancestor to our own Jack Thompson, released a book called Seduction of the Innocent, in which he alleged that America's then-rising juvenile delinquency problem could be blamed on comic books, which at the time were an entirely unregulated medium. Now, Dr. Wertham was fucking nuts. Along with his expected bitching about the violence and sex in what were then the ultra-popular EC horror comics, he also accused Batman and Robin of being gay, and Wonder Woman of sending subliminal S&M messages. Alright, so that last one was actually pretty accurate, but the rest of it was complete bullshit. Didn't matter. The book was a big deal, and led to a Senate hearing that decimated that entire industry. See, it was only the 50s. There was no mass media mechanism through which the readership could organize and defend the medium. And the publishers, they couldn't get on the same page and eventually caved to the government's demand for a self-censoring body, the Comics Code Authority, which was so strict that for decades comic books weren't even allowed to use the word zombie. The only publisher who fought back was William Gaines, the boss of EC, and he saw his whole business censored to the point of total destruction save for one title, Mad, which he saved by morphing it from a comic into a black and white magazine. Shortly after this whole dark business concluded, the American comics industry fell apart completely for almost a decade. This actually happened. How? Fear. Fear of the unknown. Comics in the 50s were exactly like video games now, a young medium with a largely non-mainstream fan base, viewed from the outside with distrust. Non-fans didn't understand the medium, weren't connected to it, so it was easy to turn that otherness into fear. This doesn't have to happen to gaming, people. We can stop it. By staying on point, by fighting smart, and by making good examples of ourselves. It's not enough just to get angry and be against it anymore. If we care, we need to be proactive. When the douchebags start out about violent games, don't just be a bigger douchebag in response. Confront them with facts. Put them on the defensive for their change. Embrace the developments that bring the rest of the world closer to gaming so they aren't afraid of it, or of us. Represent yourself better. If you get on live and call people names or pull that cyberbullying crap, it reflects back on all of us. Cut that shit out. And be involved. Do you know who your congressmen are? Find out. Call, write, or email them, and tell them you're a constituent too, and you want them to vote against any and all anti-gaming legislation that comes down the pike. And guys, most importantly of all, remember this. When it comes right down to it, when it comes right down to these core questions of do video games cause violence and should we censor them, remember, the facts are on our side.
We are right. They are wrong. That means we have the higher ground. We have the upper hand. We have the bigger, metaphorical gun. The only way we lose is when we lose that advantage. And we lose that advantage when we fight stupid. Because we get scared.
And I ask you, what do we have to be scared of? We're gamers. We've faced worse than a bunch of busybody anti-gaming censors. We charged the bridge against Bowser. We drew swords at Ganondorf. We outsmarted Doctors Wily, Robotnik, and Cortex. We conquered the Covenant. We liberated Rapture. We caught 'em all. We shot 'em all. We saved them all. We blew up Hitler's head. We are not as the media portrays us. We are vigilant. We are intelligent. We are gamers, and we are not afraid of them. We are not ashamed of who we are, and we will defend ourselves against slander, against stereotypes, and against censorship, not with arms, but with words, with knowledge, with facts. We will outthink them. We will overthink them. History will remember this as the great video game violence debate. You can win it. I don't believe you can. I don't merely think you can. I know you can. So what do you say?